On this week's Most Craved, Puppet Master Remake.
Whose side are you on? We've got a spoiler-free review of Civil War.
Space Jam! Really?
Hey guys, welcome to Most Craved. I'm Jenna Bush with Legion of Leia.
I'm Silas Lesnick with ComingSoon.net.
And I'm William Bibiani with Craved Online. Hey, Space Jam. 20 years ago, a commercial came out called Space Jam, and the young ones were just like, we love commercials! And you buy a lot of merchandise and soundtracks, and now we're getting another one with LeBron James, directed by Justin Lin from the Fast and Furious franchise.
Sure. Right, I never saw the original. I could not
Never
bring
saw
my...
it?
No, I couldn't.
Wow.
Nope.
You didn't miss much.
I didn't
like
think
the
so.
original.
Why?
It's fun.
Is it?
Is it?
It's silly. I like the weird, like, why is Looney Tunes in an alternate universe inside the Earth? When did that happen? In the
That's a good
1940s,
question.
they were working in Hollywood with all the
Right.
Disney characters. What happened to have the Looney Tunes go underground and live beneath the Earth?
Well, I look at it the way I look at Animaniacs, where half of the Animaniacs episodes are actually real, taking place on the Warner Brothers lot, and then the other half are the movies the Animaniacs actually made. Space Jam only works as a movie the Looney Tunes made because Michael Jordan was suddenly available and they had to sell a lot of toys.
See, Silas, can I just tell you, your versions of like what happened or cross universes that may not actually be on the screen, I would much rather watch those than what's actually up there. Okay, so I can't judge because I didn't watch the first one, but do we need another one?
Here's my thing. Why does it have to be about, why is the idea of the Looney Tunes playing basketball such a great idea that that's what we need to do? We can't just do like another Looney Tunes movie. It's got to be Looney Tunes playing basketball. That's the sweet spot.
Well, presumably the Monstars want a rematch.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. If everyone who loves Space Jam loves the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island,
I was actually
equally,
gonna mention
I'm like,
that.
that's
Yes,
fine.
all right,
That's
I do
fine.
love
that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because no one took that seriously. Space Jam is this thing.
No one's
that
taking
some
Space Jam
I don't
seriously.
know of anyone taking Space Jam
Speak
seriously.
ill of Space Jam within certain social circles and see where it gets you. It gets you with a pounded bottom. That's where it gets you. People are not happy about it. They're mean.
People are smacking you in the ass when
Smacking
you say
you
bad
like
things.
a verbal spanking about their love of the Space Jam.
Was
You
it a
have
bad
interesting
thing?
friends.
I do have interesting friends. No one's argued this. No one's argued this. Here's my thing. Space Jam is not one of the worst movies ever made. It is one of the most despicable for me, though, because it really does feel like absolute nonstop pandering. There's hardly any plot to speak of. Lola Bunny. Lola Bunny is a character who was created in order to be sort of a feminist additional character to Space Jam. She's tough, she plays basketball, and yet she was also specifically created, and look it up, to make Bugs Bunny seem more heterosexual because he spent so much of his earlier cartoons cross-dressing. Even though it was a joke. The executives were actually concerned about it, and they made it into a gag in the follow-up movie, Looney Tunes Back in Action, where like this person who was so obviously wrong presented that argument. So Lola Bunny, who came into her own in the animated TV series and actually became a very fun character, was created for these like really just kind of awful reasons, and every Looney Tune responds to her purely sexually in a way that is just gross today. There's nothing in this movie I think is particularly good.
You thought a lot about this.
I have, because people won't stop. People won't, we'll let Chill Factor die, but Space Jam has to come up periodically over and over again over the last 20 years.
I personally kind of feel like I like Justin Lin. I like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I think that Space Jam has hit a point in pop culture where it is such a silly movie. It's such a silly idea. And I think that the idea of bringing back Looney Tunes with Space Jam to sort of anchor it is a really cool way of just doing something really fun and silly. I mean, it could be awful, but I don't think it necessarily will be.
And I like Justin Lin too. I mean, if you're going to do it.
Here's my thought. If you're going to do Space Jam now, let's say we have to. Warner Brothers also did the Lego movie. The Lego movie came out really, really great, but what it also did was it was also a marriage of a whole bunch of different Warner Brothers franchise. What if it's not just Looney Tunes? What if LeBron James has to play Quidditch with the Monstars and Bruce Wayne is sponsoring the team?
I mean, sure.
Okay.
Done. Now you're
That's-
onto something.
Well, why is that worse than the Looney Tunes?
Because that's at least not doing the same thing over and over again. Listen, it's all terrible. It's all really, really terrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm a curmudgeon. I'll just openly say it. It's fine. I don't really. No, it's not
No.
fine. It's not fine.
No, I was just saying, no, you're not a curmudgeon.
I think the internet would disagree with you.
Well, how do you feel about a new Puppet Master expanded universe?
I'm actually fine with that because the Puppet Master sequels have not been great since like Puppet Master 3.
Well, and the thing about horror movies is that very often people don't get as upset about the idea of remakes. I mean, some of them are terrible. Nightmare on Elm Street. But the idea that like usually aren't going back in to make a grittier, darker version of it because it's already a horror movie. So often you're just sometimes you're getting a little more humor in it. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I can't watch it because, as you all know, I have a fear of dolls, puppets, and mannequins, along with my fear of clowns.
That's fine. Here's the thing. The Puppet Master series is one of those series that's actually, it's really, really famous, but most people haven't watched most of them because a lot of them are made by Full Moon. It's not like a really high-profile distributor. Even the first couple, which actually had more money to throw at it, were pretty cheap. And then they got even cheaper, and then one whole movie is basically a clip show. It's like so annoying. But it's also one of those movies that sort of found its mythology over time and kept changing and shifting. So it doesn't bother me if you kind of go back to the start and try to make this story about a guy who was protesting the Nazis with puppet shows who was then killed and put souls of people into puppets who would avenge his death. There's a cool story there. Let's do that.
This is why I have a phobia.
It's also Full Moon was one of the earlier cinematic universes, so to speak. All of its movies took place in or around Bodega Bay. They sort of crossed over. There's characters in Bad Channels that then appear in the Dollman sequel, where he fights the demonic toys, which have also fought Puppet Master. It's a big universe.
To be fair, there's some serious continuity holes in that crossover.
I
you
know.
actually watch it.
I know, because like the woman that gets shrunk at the end of Bad Channels is a different woman, even though the one at the beginning of Dollman vs. Demonic Toys was in Bad Channels.
And if you remember in Robot Wars, which takes place like 50 years in the future, they've got like theatrically released like Puppet Master 30 or something, and everyone's talking about, I've seen them all. And I'm like, they stopped going to theater. I don't even think did they ever go to theaters? I think the first one was supposed to, and I don't think it did.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm fine with robots.
Yes. Good.
Yes.
So we're good.
Yes, we're good.
Awesome.
Let's talk about Captain America: Civil War. This is a spoiler-free review. We'll go deeper into it next week when you guys have all seen it. But damn, it's good.
It's so good.
It's amazing. And let me ask, they've been doing this whole Team Iron Man, Team Cap thing. Which one were you going in, and which one were you coming out?
I'm always going to be Team Cap, but one of the things that I think was so well done about this film is that you absolutely, unlike the comics, absolutely can see both sides. I think it was a really well-balanced film. You see everyone's motivation for being on the side that they're on. All of it makes perfect sense, but I'm Team Cap.
My thing is this, before you actually see the movie, even in the commercials, they don't necessarily do the best job of laying out the argument, so I think it's hard to pick a side before you've seen the film. And what I'll say is this, in principle, I'm on Tony Stark's side. These are godlike beings capable of mass destruction. Maybe there should be a teensy bit of oversight. But in the specific context of the Marvel Universe, where Captain America has had to take down the American government because Nazis took over and no one noticed, Cap is right. We need specifically these guys who headline movies and don't make huge mistakes within reason to actually stop the government.
They do make
mistakes, but then it's fine.
Is it? I mean, like, the whole argument is like, what if it isn't?
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
And the collateral damage is, it's something they explored in Batman v Superman, but we really explore it here and what it means. And
I'm particularly fascinated by it with the connection. I mean, you turn Captain America into almost this objectivist hero, which is a really weird thing to do, and yet it makes a lot of sense. And I've been going back and rewatching. One of the amazing things about Civil War is it not just is a great movie, it makes the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe better.
It totally
and when we
does.
first met Captain America, he was desperate to do whatever he could to sign the documents necessary to fight for this country.
Yes.
And we've seen his arc go to the exact opposite of that. Meanwhile, Tony Stark was the exact opposite. He wanted nothing to do with Gary Shandling, Senator in Iron Man 2. He wanted nothing to do with a government team. It's really neat to see these characters progress over the years and change in logical ways.
yeah.
It's also really cool that unlike Batman v Superman, and I know some people are really proud that they managed to talk about Civil War without mentioning Batman v Superman, there are alarming similarities in plot, in character, in action. Like
Yeah.
it's really specific. It's going to be really, really weird to watch these as a double feature. But just the simple fact that we have a history with most of these characters, that we've known them before, we understand what they stand for, we've watched them fight for their ideals, so that when they actually punch each other, it really means something.
Yeah, it totally does. And they managed to do it with a great amount of something that's very, very dark. They managed to do it with a great amount of humor, considering how dark the subject matter is. And I do have to say, Spider-Man, you nailed it. You nailed
it.
Spider-Man.
It's
so good.
It pretty much is the last word on anybody ever saying there's too many characters
Yeah.
in a superhero
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Well, they do a really good job of balancing it, and everyone gets their moment. Everyone gets their time, but what it really is ultimately is it focuses on Captain America and Iron Man and their relationship and where they're growing, and that keeps everything focused so that Ant-Man isn't in that much of the movie.
But what he's in is so great.
And he's great, and he comes in at the right time because
Yeah.
people ask, there's no spoilers here, Spider-Man's in the movie. Ant-Man and Spider-Man aren't in the movie from the first scene. They come in when we need a couple of outsiders to sort of take the edge off a bit so it doesn't get too dark. Like, it's actually really, really great how they're handled. I love it all.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to say about Civil War, so I think we will be back next week with a much more in-depth spoiler discussion.
Damn right. Okay. So, what do you think of Civil War things on
What
the
team
Twitter?
are you on?
What side are you on? Puppet Master, neat. And also Space Jam. Am I wrong?
We'll see you next week.